Hi, I'm Gabrielle. I'm Gabrielle, Amazon Queen. Yeah. Well, first off, I'm Gabrielle Cunningham here. And today I'm just going to make this film. Now, some folks are going to say, well, Gabrielle, why is it not you have your mother Xena fighting someone or some stunt or some lark or something? Well, every once in a while we do these blog films too. Or what do you want to call them? These talking films. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here is that, there's been a lot of talk about things. About, Raw fight, Smackdown fight, NXT, how they're going to pull it off, and a lot of folks believing that, it's going to be NXT that's going to get, buried or whatever. Now, from what I've seen so far, it really seems to be NXT seems to be evened so far. Yes, of course, there was the first strike that happened on Friday Night SmackDown, but keep in mind, they didn't have all the wrestlers there. Only some of them were there. And other wrestlers that didn't go to Saudi Arabia, but they couldn't be there for whatever grounds, well, yeah. You see, the way they do it now is everyone is on whatever show they're on now. There's no overlapping, unless you're NXT. Then there's some overlapping going on. Unless you're the 24/7 winner, or you're the women's team winner, then you can go between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. But a lot of folks out there are going to say, well, there should be overlap. Well, first off, you folks had bitched it. You folks were bitching since what? I'm going to say what? Going back to at least April, maybe even May, I don't know. But folks were bitching for some time. Oh, there should not be no overlap. All wrestlers on SmackDown should be on SmackDown. All wrestlers on Raw should be on Raw. So, either way, you're never going to be happy. So WWE said, okay, the wild oversight's done. If you're on Raw, you're on Raw until the next shake-up or draft, whenever that's going to be. If you're on SmackDown, you're on SmackDown until whatever the next shake-up or draft's going to be. Now, some folks out there also believe, and if you're going to be on NXT until you're either picked to go up to the Raw or SmackDown, or offshoots of 205 or NXT UK. Now, some folks out there, here's the thing they go, well, if there isn't no overlap anymore between Raw and SmackDown only at the buy shows, then why is there overlap between NXT and Raw and SmackDown? Well, NXT's a semp. And for many years, NXT, there was no overlap between Raw, SmackDown, NXT. For a long time, there was no overlap. NXT did its thing, Raw and SmackDown did whatever they were doing, and there was no overlap. Yeah, some folks did talk about what, and when someone came up from NXT and went to Raw or SmackDown, it did talk about what they did when they were on NXT, but they didn't do any more overlap after that. So it is what it is. So it's the first time the NXT's had any working with Raw or SmackDown. And a lot of folks are going to say, oh, well, since they're on their own shows now, yeah, they are. But that doesn't mean Raw and SmackDown can overlap with NXT. Raw and SmackDown cannot overlap anymore between themselves. There's no more overlap between Raw and SmackDown. Only there is overlap between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So, yeah, you had the NXT wrestlers come to Friday Night SmackDown or come on SmackDown when half of the wrestlers were still stuck in Saudi Arabia and wouldn't be back until 6 hours later. And they beat up and wrestled the ones who didn't go to Saudi Arabia, which weren't too many of them. Almost everyone who was on SmackDown went to the Saudi Arabia Crown Jewel, and almost everyone who was on Raw went there. Well, there were some exceptions. Daniel Bryan didn't go, and Kevin Owens didn't go, and Sami Zayn didn't go, giving to the grounds that Saudi Arabia and Assyria have never gotten along, and since he is from Assyrian forekin, but okay, there were many exceptions. So, yes, NXT did have a lot of more run over SmackDown. Now, when it came to Raw, Monday Night Raw, everyone was there. So that running hot shot didn't quite work. Even though, yeah, there was a beatdown after that, but there was more of a fight back going on. So it wasn't as one-sided as it was when it came to the SmackDown. Now, a lot of folks are saying, why was AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, and Cal Anderson the only ones there for NXT? Well, you see, it would be hard to get everyone from Raw and SmackDown over to NXT for that 2-hour show. So they just said, okay, we'll have AJ Styles, Luke Gallows, and Kyle Anderson come over. They're on Raw, but they'll take care of it since and deal with the Undisputed Era that believes they're the toughest team, who believes they're the team that everyone should be frightened of. And they were the ones that, when they came to Raw, they basically unlooked the OC. So, yeah, the OC came back to get some even. And what happened on Monday Night Raw? And they're like, why did no one from SmackDown not show up to do something? I don't know. But you got to keep in mind, this is just week 1 of it. I'm sure that week 2, as it goes on, there's going to be more Monday Night Raw fighting NXT and more SmackDown fighting NXT this week. And it's not going to be as, one-sided as it was when it first started out. Now, a lot of folks are bitching, and a lot of IW and AEW followers are bitching and saying, oh, well, your shit isn't good anymore. This is just another bullshit takeover. Another bullshit team taking over another bullshit team. Yeah, well, there's always been that. Remember, there was Team Austin and Team Bischoff for one Survivor Series. There was Team Cena and Team Strong Headship for one Survivor Series. And for a long time it was Raw and SmackDown fighting each other when the brand new extension started up again, and even when the first brand new extension was going on. So, yeah, well, I think NXT being in this with Raw and SmackDown is a good thing, since NXT has never really had any overlap with either Raw or SmackDown. And you see, by the time NXT first started, this is 2010, Raw, there was no overlap. And when the brand new split ended, when the offshoot ended, there was none. And even when it started up again, there was none. So a lot of folks are like, oh, well, Hunter S. Helmsley's the one standing up for NXT. Well, technically, it should be William Regal, since he's the overseer for NXT. But I get where Hunter S. Helmsley's coming from, but, Triple H. And yeah, as far as Raw goes, you got Paulie Dangerously, who is the showrunner, as well as being, and you also have Brother Love, who is the showrunner for SmackDown. So in a way, yeah, you do got those two. But you see, they could have gotten William Regal up there, and I'm sure that there is going to be this fight between Paulie Dangerously, Brother Love, and William Regal. I'm sure as it goes on, you're going to probably see Vic Joseph and Stu Martin and Mathen and Jerry the King Lawler and Michael Cole and Corey Graves having a fight with Mauro Romero, Beth Phoenix, and Nigel McGuinness. I'm sure that Survivor Series are going to be an overlap between not just those from NXT and Raw fighting each other, but also over the play-by-play teams. So for the first time, you're actually going to be and this won't stay in my hand anymore. Anyway, it is coming to the end of this film now. You are going to probably see the play-by-play teams have their fights, over what show's more good. So most likely, it is going to be what's going to be. You're going to probably have Vic Joseph and Michael Cole try to outdo Mauro Romero. You're probably going to have Stu Martin, Jerry King Lawler, and Corey Graves try to outdo Beth Phoenix and Nigel McGuinness. So it is what it is. I'm Gabrielle, and I'll see you later.